Yeah, so you accidentally said there are the four elements of earth, air, wind, and fire.
Honestly,
And there's a lot of
there's a lot
air,
of
there's a
wind.
lot of wind,
It's
there's
very
a
disappointing.
lot,
We'll have to, they'll
there's
never
a
know.
lot. One of these is very much like the others. And that the water doesn't exist
Water
anymore.
doesn't exist. I talked about it in my summary, but I didn't talk about it in the introduction.
Yeah.
Earth,
And
air,
I didn't want to
wind.
interrupt because I didn't want you because you sounded fantastic and you were
You know,
on point and I didn't want to be like, hey, it's water.
now that I heard you say it, I think what crept into my mind was I was thinking of the band Earth, Wind, and Fire.
I
And so
know.
that'll be fixed in post.
It's fine.
So okay, all
Yeah,
right,
it's okay.
we're
It's
gonna
all
start
good.
it again. We're doing a second
Okay.
episode. This time it's all analysis,
Okay.
keeping it together, talking about the four nations of
Yes.
Earth, air, water, and
Got
fire,
it.
for sure.
Nailed it. There you go. Woo.
All right, let's get back into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tales of Our Times. This is a show where we discuss the stories that move us, what makes them so meaningful, and why others could or should find meaning in them as well. This is not a spoiler-free show, so bear that in mind as you continue to listen. We tackle books, movies, podcasts. Oh my God, books, movies, comics, and more. Where there's a
There you
story,
go.
there's a reason to read. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens, and joining me once again today is my guest, Tyler Gelbar. Welcome back.
Thanks for having me.
Last time, we started to get into the TV series Avatar The Last Airbender. And it's a very big series. We're mostly discussing the third season, the final season, the Book of Fire. And so in this episode, we will be doing more of the analysis that we usually do, revisiting the questions of what makes it so meaningful to us and, you know, what really stood out to us, and talking about the upcoming film adaptation from Netflix. So,
Oh, the TV series.
the TV series. It's not a film adaptation. So
Thank God. Thank
Yeah.
God.
there was one.
I'm glad there was. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, we're going to have to remember. So let's
We're
get
gonna have to
into
remember.
it. And we'll go back to the very first question, which is, what was your first encounter with this story? Like, what did you watch it when it was coming out? I remember watching the finale on TV. Did you watch it after it came out, or were you watching it alongside it coming out with me?
Yeah, so I think because of the timing of the show's release and just where I was at in education at the time, I ended up just watching it on my own when I managed to buy my own computer and figure
Yeah.
out how to watch episodes online of my own accord. And then finally, I just plowed straight through from beginning to end, instead of just watching a random episode every now and then on TV, because that was
yeah.
back when you had to use TVs to watch
You're going to watch it on your
shows.
computer. Yeah.
My God, the times have changed. Oh, Lord.
Well, it's a very bingeable show as well. Like I said, after
really
it
is.
finished, my siblings and I would rewatch the whole thing every summer.
Mhm.
Okay.
It's really good.
Then let's fast forward from that into, why do you care so much about Avatar The Last Airbender, especially this last book, Fire? What draws you to this part of the story?
I think personally, something that I did enjoy is that I think it tells a story about how young people are capable of changing the world if they put as much effort into it, and if they really try, they are able to find their own answers. And I think it takes that classic trope of a group of kids or young teenagers being able to follow their passion and being able to help solve their own problems in their own way. And I think that's something that, with my age at the time as well, that you can really connect to. And I think that theme kind of sticks with you even as you grow up, that being able to find your own answers is a
good theme for you.
It's a very good theme, I think, personally.
Also, I would say, like, it does a good job of, like, while the main characters are young people, I think it does a good job of, like, really uniting people across an age spectrum that you don't normally see. And like, the main characters, the ones who solve the problems and the ones who start a lot of the problems, as well, because a lot of the main antagonists are the same age, are between the ages of 12 to 15. I think Zuko and the oldest characters are around 15, 16. I said 14 at the
15,
beginning, but
16.
they do age over the series. And
Yeah.
they're the ones who solve the problem in their own way, but they are supported by a cast of much older people than you would normally get, because there's Uncle Iroh, who is in his
Yeah.
60s or 70s. The White Lotus, which you mentioned was a secret organization, are many powerful people who are also like retirement age, which is not usually shown. They're like the old masters who have decided that peace is a better option. And kind of throughout the series, we're repeatedly confronted with people who, across the age spectrum, have decided the greater good is what they want to fight for, and encourage
Yeah.
these kids to find it in their own way. Like, they don't give them the answer. They can't give them the answer, but they do try to lead them down a path of like understanding to find the answer that they want.
Yeah. And even just from the myriad of people that they met along their adventures as well, too, really covered the entire age range,
Yeah.
from even younger kids all the way up to
Like 100-year-old people. I think the King of the Earth,
100-year-old
Boomy,
people.
right? Yeah.
Boomy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But
Yep.
yeah, it is also good, though, like you said, we see kids from 12 to 15 being the ones who are able to solve the problems. And I think that's a very powerful thing for kids to see.
Yeah.
So then why do you think that Avatar The Last Airbender is a tale of our time? And why do you think that that's like especially reflected in the story arc of Book 3, Fire?
I think it was it. To be honest, it was actually quite hard deciding which season
Hmm.
was going to be selected to be for the show, but I settled on season 3 because I feel like as if it ties everything together. You start to see those arcs crescendo and reach their zenith. Zuko switches over to the side of good, so to speak. Azula starts to hit her downfall. Sokka finds his own creativity and his own sense of self, and Aang manages to find his own solution, despite all the answers that other people were telling him.
Yeah. Despite
And
everyone
so
telling him you have to give up your values, you must kill
right, yeah.
someone.
So exactly. And if everyone's telling you, oh, you have to do this, you have to do this, you got to do this, there's no other way. And then finally, and then in the end, he manages to find a totally different way.
Hmm.
And I think that's a very powerful message for any one young person growing up. I think it's very easy to be swayed by the masses and also by
Yeah.
what everyone else is telling you, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think there's value for anyone of any age to if it doesn't work with your values, that maybe really that it's, as you said before, not everything is black or white. Maybe there is some gray in the middle that you can work with and find your own answer there. And that's just dealing with some of the character arcs, I
Yeah.
think.
There was something that I thought happened in this series that was really effective for me. Like that,
Mm,
watching the first time, like really actually changed my worldview, which was
yeah.
an episode that's not about the main characters necessarily, but where they go to school in the Firebending Nation and they
Oh
realize the
yeah.
level of like propaganda that the regular citizens are just taught and that they believe,
Hmm.
because the regular citizens, they are like fed a very different version of events,
Hmm.
for like what has happened in the war, and they're led to believe like this is a glorious war that is like helping people and like bringing the innovation of the Fire Nation to the rest of the people. Like everybody who's out there is fighting terribly and they're dangerous and you're safe here. And like
Yep.
to wrap it up quickly, but for me as a child living in America at that time, that actually like really caused me to kind of stop and examine how I had been taught about wars from what I realized was like an American perspective.
Hmm.
And it made me want to reconsider like the other side of what that would be like, because I think a lot of countries do that, right? Like you want to tell it, obviously you want to tell things from your point of view, but
Yeah, absolutely.
it's not the whole story, and it could be like
Hmm.
directly misinformation, right?
Yep.
So
Yeah. And it really, I think through its own narrative of just realizing that Aang himself, having been there and
yeah,
having firsthand experience of just being like, wait, no,
right.
none of this is true. And also the fact that his creativity combined with what he does know he does try to at least do what he can to help the rest of his classmates. And in the process of doing so, I think it really encourages critical thinking
Yeah.
and just being able to question, like
Well, and in
critical
a
thinking
compassionate
and
way.
curiosity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you said, it encourages critical thinking in a very compassionate way. Like it's the teachers or the people, and it's not kind of the teachers, but it's the people who are the ones in like pushing the propaganda that are pictured as bad actors, whereas the people
Hmm.
who are being taught that are really like, I think it's a very good view, a very like, you used the word humanistic earlier, kind of view of those
Hmm.
people when it's like, I mean, these guys aren't bad people. Like the majority of the people who just exist in the Fire Nation are probably not bad people. They either they don't understand what's going on, they have a misinformed version of events. They might change their mind if they'd heard something different, but they just don't know. Like
Hmm.
they don't have all the information to make their own decision about what's going on and about what their country's doing,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I thought it was really interesting. I think you pointing it out, like it is very humanistic. There's a lot of relatability in all the characters, including the characters that are not main characters, and I think that comes out a lot in that
Hmm.
third arc. So
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, there's a lot of things that are really meaningful to us about the show. But switching gears now, Avatar the series it's had a lot of success in the animated world. Not as much of a success on the big screen. But coming up this year, there's going
Hmm.
to be a new Netflix adaptation, which a lot of people think is very promising. I think one of the big reasons is that the two original writers or creators from the original show are working on this
Hmm.
one. So that's promising. But I wanted to get your opinion as somebody else who's a really big fan of the show. What do you think about the upcoming Netflix adaptation for Avatar The Last Airbender?
I have seen some of the trailers for the live action adaptation into a TV series.
Hmm.
I've seen some of the trailers for it. I haven't looked too much into it because, as Netflix has done a few other times with some other live adaptations, not
Hmm.
all of them, there's been a few too many liberties that have been taken in their adaptation, and it has
Left you wanting.
yeah, very much so. So I don't exactly have high hopes,
Hmm.
but from at least some of the scenes that I have seen from the trailers, it does look quite promising.
That's
There was
interesting.
another piece of media that was released a
Hmm.
few years ago. Was that a decade ago? Um,
The
it
original
was. I was in
movie.
high school. Yeah, roughly. I think it was like 2009, 2010.
Yeah.
There was another piece of media that was made. That we don't exactly have to call a movie. Some people called it a movie. It's something that M. Night Shyamalan made and decided to ruin. However, there are some. The point being is that if you were to compare the two, some of the problems is that the cast was quite whitewashed in the
Yeah.
movie.
Well,
The
an
pronunciation of
important thing to
names,
note when we
yeah.
discuss that, if you haven't seen it yet, something that we didn't have time to get into last week was that the show itself, the animated show, is a really diverse cast of people. Like there are people of
Right.
kind of all colors, but often and very heavily inspired by the peoples of the Asian continent, not exclusively.
Hmm.
So, like one-to-ones that many people have drawn, though they're not exactly the same, are like the Water Nation. The Water Tribe represents like the indigenous peoples from the North and South Poles. The Earth Nation, many people have thought of as kind of an analog for Korea
Yeah.
and China. Those large kind of empires that existed in mainland Asia.
Hmm.
The Fire Nation seems to have it. It shares some of those similarities, but also seems to be very Japanese.
Yeah.
And the air nomads, many people draw a line to the Tibetan native peoples or the peoples of the Himalayan
Yeah. The
countries.
written language used in the show is Chinese,
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. They
traditional
use a lot of
Chinese.
Chinese traditional characters.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
being said, these are not exactly one-to-ones, but in the original movie, a lot of people felt like that diversity was lost with the casting
Hmm.
and the pronunciation in addition. So
Yes.
back to what you were saying,
Um,
though.
Yeah, thanks for clarifying that. And that's something that kind of created to the atmosphere and the aesthetic of the entire show was the blends of Asian and Southeast Asian and even Indian culture.
And
Um,
other Native Americans.
and
Yeah.
yeah, and that's something that the movie uh, blatantly ignored.
Mm.
However, with the trailer, it seems quite diverse.
Hmm.
And then also another important part was that they took a lot of liberties with how bending works and operates in the movie. So in the show, a single person and their ability to bend or manipulate the elements on their own can vary.
Oh,
And
yes.
however, it took in the original movie, it took like 5 men to levitate a pebble. There's one scene in there that I'm pretty sure that's when people, diehard fans of the show, just got up and walked out of the movie theater,
Oh, really?
where there's 5 men. I almost did, but
Wow.
I was in the middle of a car crash and I wanted to see what
You wanted to
happened.
see how it ended.
I wanted to see how it ended.
So
Anyways,
it seems like a lot of the magic from the first film adaptation was lost. Um,
yeah.
I guess I would say like I feel pretty hopeful about it based on what I've seen. Still with
Mhm.
like some reserve in my heart, but I feel like they did pretty well by the One Piece adaptation, which is a lot more
Yeah, actually.
wild than I
Mhm.
think the Avatar one is in terms of like energy that they put out there. So I'm really
Oh,
hopeful.
certainly.
Like you said,
Yep.
I think the attention to the cultures that inspired a lot of the world is really like heartening. Um,
Yep.
and not changing the story too much. Like we talked here so much about like what made the story special to us. I think shortening that, I think it's a really big disservice
Mm.
to shorten it to just a film. Like it's not something that is easily transitioned into a single movie. I don't know. I feel hopeful. I think hopefully the series will
Yeah.
do better. Um,
Yeah. I'm a little bit more hopeful that they will, but
well,
um,
fingers crossed.
it looks promising. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
We'll be able to figure that out. I think it says right now the first episode should come out in February of this year. So
February 22nd.
what I am excited about is like we mentioned this is a really influential story for me. I hope
Mm.
that it does it justice. I also hope it brings it to a wider audience. I think more people. The story is so good. I would love for more people to be able to experience it. Hopefully,
Absolutely.
in a way that does it justice.
Yes.
Anyway, we are out of time, and it's gone so fast, even for like our second episode. So
Every time.
every time, let's get back to the regular questions then, and I have to ask you if you
Mm.
could give Avatar: The Last Airbender, Book 3, Fire, its own one phrase subtitle, what would it be?
I would probably have to say for you to find your own answer.
So
It's find your own answer.
yes.
No matter what other people tell you or lead you to believe,
Hmm.
that you should be something, that you don't have to be what other people tell you that
Yeah.
you are.
You
And
don't
I
have to
think it's
do
a
what other
it's a
people tell you.
wonderful coming of age series, and should that lesson be forgot, uh, maybe to help kick off the new year.
Right. And I think really encouraging and unfortunately consistently relevant, right? Like there's always people who are dealing with things like this. We always, where we are right now,
Mm,
there's a lot of conflict around the world. So, you know,
yeah,
finding your own answer, stand up for what you believe in, and you don't have to do what other people tell you to. You don't have to be what other people tell you to. You can
yeah,
find your own answer, no matter what your age is, no matter who tells you that, whether it's your friends, the adults that you trust, history. You can work to find your own way. Ugh, I love it. I could keep
so
talking about this,
good.
but we just don't have time. So
Thanks for having
this,
me on.
yeah, this is all the time that we have for today. So thank you to you for coming back, and thank you to everybody else out there for listening with us on Radio Taiwan International. This has been Tales of Our Time. I'm your host, Amanda Stevens. This has been my guest, Tyler Gelbar. I hope that you enjoyed learning more about Avatar The Last Airbender, Book Fire, Find Your Own Answer, A Tale of Our Time. We'll see you next time.